this question's on housing, and it's clear that there's a lot of homelessness in Greater Manchester, and this is clearly an important issue. So what's your short-term and long-term strategy to prevent and tackle homelessness?
So the short-term solution is already there, and I have to give our current mayor a bit of credence on that. The bed for the night is simply that. It's a bed for the night. With I think they're looking at placing in, I want to say storage tanks and turning them into temporary homes under the arches, which is great. But these are short-term measures. Long-term, we need to deal with homelessness and home affordability across Greater Manchester. And that has a lot of facets to it. So it's why is someone homeless? And it's not just one thing or another. So there could be mental health issues. There could be substance and alcohol abuse within that. There could be financial problems. There could be abuse issues in that person's history. And we need to be able to tackle all of that and actually help that individual through whatever issue they're having that is causing their homelessness. So I do propose a collaborative approach, more so than we have at the moment, and it starts in communities, and it's linked to, at the moment we're promised a police officer for every ward in Greater Manchester. In Greater Manchester, which is great. That's being rolled out. What I want to see is you've got those police officers in each ward. So in Trafford, where I am, I live in Stretford, and I live in Gorse Hill ward in Stretford. So we've got Longford, Gorse Hill and Stretford wards that make up Stretford, and part of Longford is also in Old Trafford, with Clifford ward in Old Trafford. But those 3 wards, or 4 wards that make up this side, will have 4 police officers. So why can't they all have 2 or 3 youth workers? Why can't they all have a designated mental health community nurse? Why can't they all have a designated outreach worker or a designated social worker to work alongside housing association officers, to work alongside head teachers and primary school teachers and secondary school teachers and colleges, to actually build a safety net within our communities? So instead of allowing someone to become homeless because there's not the services there, we actually deal with the problem before it becomes bigger. And that's a long-term solution that we could probably roll out over the next 10 years. It would mean lobbying government for extra money, but as you're probably aware, the Mayor of Greater Manchester has influence and guidance control over £6.3 billion of health and social care funding for the city region. So actually using some of that to prevent the need for healthcare, or prevention is better than cure.
Homelessness was the big priority, my personal priority, over the last 4 years. I said at the first mayoral election that I would turn the situation around. We had a rising crisis of homelessness back in 2017, and we still do. I'm not saying for a second that we've solved it, because it's obviously a big challenge. So let me separate the two things. The short-term response, if you like, the emergency response that we've made, or I've made, is something called a bed every night. So this was a scheme that I created with our 10 councils, and we work with our community and voluntary providers across Greater Manchester, and I fund every single night about 520 places currently. So the aim is to give everybody sleeping rough somewhere to go, and it's really worked in that it's reduced rough sleeping. There were 300 people sleeping rough in 2017. It's down. It varies because it does change, from one month to another, but it's about 100 or a bit below 100, 70 on the last count at the moment. So a bed every night has been independently evaluated by Heriot Watt University as having achieved a big, as having been the reason why we've reduced rough sleeping by so much. And they've also said that we've gone faster than other parts of the country in reducing it because of that. But then let me just finish on the second part of your question, Georgia. That's an emergency response, a short-term response, and we do need a more comprehensive response. So we are currently developing a Greater Manchester homelessness prevention strategy, which looks at the kind of much bigger, broader issues as to why people become homeless and what more is needed to be done to more than just give people a short-term solution, but actually give people a home. So we will be bringing that forward in early May, and it will go from building more homes for social rent, taking over the running of some homes within the private rented sector, expanding our successful Housing First scheme, where we give people a home and support. And it also touches on things like young people who've been in care, because that's a big part of the homeless population, you know, young people who can't fall back on parents. We need to do much more, I think, to prevent youth homelessness. So we have a particular pilot running at the moment on youth homelessness prevention, very much focused on young people who've been in care. And that will be a big part of our overall strategy coming forward. So thank you for your question. We are acting both short-term and long-term, and we are beginning to achieve results, but we're not where we want to be yet.
Okay. Yeah, I think the first thing is really to acknowledge that I'm not the expert in this, and to start meeting with those people who are. So those organisations and groups who do amazing work across our city region, to actually work with people who find themselves homeless and to actually see what they are hearing and what they are advocating for, and to actually use the experts. And again, that's something I think that it's very easy for politicians to go, this is my grand plan. And then there's someone sat who's spent hours and hours and days and weeks and months actually genuinely dealing with the problem on the street, to go, what is she on about? What's that all about? So I think that would be, you know, sort of week one, I would be inviting all of those charity leaders, all of those workers, all of those people who are actually spending the time and really genuinely have the knowledge to come in and to have a sort of sit down and a conference with me to sort of say, where do we need the extra support, and where can I actually add value to this? Where is what do you need? What's really working well? And one of the things I've heard from some of the homeless charities is there has been a move to do more work, joined up working together across issues and regions. Actually, that is what we need, but also looking to say, where is it an appropriate place for charities and voluntary organisations to have a role, but also where can we then use money from Greater Manchester to actually replace some of those, and that isn't to do a disservice to those organisations, but to say this is a problem that affects all of us as a society. Should we really be reliant on charities and volunteers to fix it, or should it be what's working well, what's appropriate to stay there, and what then comes much more directly under the mayoral control?